Words cannot possibly describe enough how much I hate this musical. I hate this musical with a vengeance. I hate this musical with the fire of 1,000 burning suns in 1,000 circles of hell. This is the worst possible musical ever to be on a stage on Broadway and win a Tony. Why this musical won a Tony is beyond me. Today we're talking about Dear Evan Hansen. I used to like this show as a kid. Back when I was a little edgy boy, I would listen to this musical's album again on repeat over and over again. And I would think, wow, this is really great. This is a work of art. This belongs in a museum. And funnily enough, you can find the shirt of Evan in the Smithsonian Museum. I kid you not. There is an entire display dedicated to Dear Evan Hansen, and you can find this shirt.
Are these people dent?
But Joel, I hear you asking, first of all, why are you complaining about Dear Evan Hansen? And second of all, why are you complaining about a musical at all? This is Movie Force, not Music Force, Movie Force. And to that, I say to you, the audience, they are making this musical into a movie. It's going to come out in less than 2 months. It is July 10th. While I am recording this. And this movie is set to release on September 24th, 2021, less than 2 months away from now. So that answers that question. As for why I hate this musical when I used to like it, well, when I was obsessed with this musical, my mom would say to me, Joel, maybe this isn't the best musical for you to be listening to. It's kind of got some bad and dark themes, and I really don't think that this is a good thing for you to be listening to, especially because you struggle so much with mental health. And me being a rebellious teenager, I would say, shut up, Mom, this is a great musical about society and the society we live in. We live in a society, Mom. And Mom, if you're watching this, I apologize for ever doubting you, because you were right and this musical is truly terrible. I have the Wikipedia article here, and we're just going to read the plot word from word and commentate over it, and you're going to see why I truly despise this musical. First off, we need to talk about these two guys. These are Pasek and Paul, and they are really, really good at writing music. They wrote the music for La La Land, the music for The Greatest Showman, and the music for Dear Evan Hansen. The problem with this duo is that they are very good at writing music that sounds happy and uplifting and family-friendly, and so when you listen to the Dear Evan Hansen soundtrack on its own, you think, gee, this must be a really wholesome musical about a boy who's struggling with anxiety and finds acceptance with his peers. You go, Evan. Way to freaking go. And it turns out that's not the case at all. It's much, much worse. Act 1. Evan Hansen is a teenager who suffers from social anxiety. His therapist, Dr. Sherman, recommends that he writes letters to himself detailing what will be good about each day. His mother, Heidi, suggests that he ask people to sign the cast on his arm to make friends. Meanwhile, the wealthy Murphy family consists of parents Cynthia and Larry and their children Zoe and Connor. Cynthia struggles with the fact that her family is falling apart, and Cynthia and Heidi wonder how to connect with their sons. Okay, so we're off to a pretty strong start. What could possibly be bad about this musical? Later on, Evan writes a letter to himself, wondering whether anyone would notice if he were not there. All his hope is focused on Zoe, Connor's sister, since his crush on her is the only thing that brings him happiness. He encounters Connor, who now offers to sign Evan's cast. Connor finds Evan's letter on the printer and reads it, becomes furious at the mention of Zoe, thinking Evan intended for him to see the letter in order to make fun of him, and he storms out, taking the letter with him. Okay, stop right here. Evan, are you stupid? Like, you live in the age of the internet. You are a boy with severe social anxiety who is extremely introverted and who does not want anybody to read this paper. What possibly could possess you to think it was a good idea to print this out at school while there are other kids using the lab? You know that someone is probably going to come and read this letter and make fun of you, if not do something worse. So why can't you just, I don't know, write it on a Google Doc and print it out when you get home? Or if you don't have a printer at home, you could just go to the public library where you can pay 10 cents a sheet to print out an essay or whatever. You don't need to print this out at your school, and this literally sets off the entire chain of events of this musical. If you had just waited to print out that letter or just emailed it to Dr. Sherman, none of this would have happened. This is so stupid. Evan is in a deep state of anxiety over what Connor might have done with the letter and tells Jared online about his assignment to write letters to himself. Jared is Evan's family friend in quotation marks, because they're not really friends. They just tolerate each other. Evan is called to the principal's office and is told by Connor's parents that Connor died by suicide days before, with Evan's letter found in his pocket, which they believe is a suicide note addressed to Evan. Evan attempts to deny, but Cynthia sees Connor's name on his cast, only strengthening their belief. My earbud fell. I don't care. Let's keep going. Evan goes to Connor's house for dinner. Jared had instructed him to nod and confirm to avoid making things worse. He didn't have to say anything. He could have just sat there and been quiet, but he didn't. What did he do? He lies. He pretends that he and Connor had been best friends, emailing each other from a secret account. Evan starts recounting a fictional version of the day he broke his arm at an abandoned apple orchard that the Murphys had visited. When Evan gets home, Heidi mentions hearing about Connor's death, but Evan tells her, don't worry about it, he didn't know Connor. After realizing that he needs evidence of this supposed secret email account, he enlists Jared's help in creating fake, backdated email conversations between himself and Connor. Yeah. The boys, they trigger the death of Connor, or Evan does, and now they're writing fake emails pretending that they were best friends with Connor.
Who in their right mind thought this musical would be a good idea?
After Evan shows the Murphy family Connor's emails, Cynthia is ecstatic that her son had a friend. Larry is hurt that Connor took his family and his privileged life for granted. Cynthia tries to show Zoe the emails, but they argue again. Zoe still refuses to mourn Connor, and despite this, after reading the suicide note, Zoe notices that she is mentioned and asks Evan why Connor would say that about her. Evan, unable to tell her the truth, tells her all the reasons why he loves her under the guise of Connor saying them. And then, here is the icing on the cake, folks. Overcome with emotion, he impulsively kisses Zoe, but she pulls away and tells him to leave. So, he is pretending to be best friends with this dead kid, so that he can get with the dead kid's sister. Does nobody see a problem with this? At school, Evan and Elena notice that people are starting to forget about Connor, so Evan enlists Elena and Jared's help in founding the Connor Project to keep Connor's memory alive. The three pitch the idea to the Murphys, who agree to support the project and are moved by his dedication. Cynthia gives Evan a necktie she had gotten for Connor that he never wore, and asks Evan to wear it when he speaks at Connor's memorial service. At the official launch of the Connor Project, Evan gives an inspiring speech about his loneliness and friendship with Connor, which, remember, was fake, and it goes viral. Zoe, overcome by the impact her brother and Evan have had, kisses him. So Zoe thinks that Connor was best friends with Evan, and that they had a great relationship, and that secretly, even though it's implied that Connor was very either verbally or physically abusive to Zoe, she still thinks that like maybe he was a great guy, and now she is kissing Evan for some reason. Why are you kissing Evan? Why are you kissing this boy who you only just met a few days ago, just because he claims to be friends with your brother who you never liked anyway because he was a horrible person? Why Zoe, why are you doing this? Act 2. Evan and Elena pitch a fundraising idea on the Connor Project's website to raise $50,000 to reopen the abandoned apple orchard where Evan and Connor supposedly spent time. However, Evan becomes preoccupied with his new relationship with Zoe and his newfound family in the Murphys, and he begins to neglect his mother, Jared, and the Connor Project. So he is abandoning his mother, who is working several 9-to-5 jobs and working as a nurse, and just trying to scrape by for the both of them, literally giving all of her time to this boy, this ungrateful boy who is spending time behind her back with this rich, wealthy family, just so he can, kind of take advantage of that, being around a rich family, and two, get into the pants of the rich family's daughter. I am in shock. I don't know what to say. I'm just gonna keep going. Heidi asks Evan why he did not tell her about the Connor project or his friendship with Connor. He angrily responds that he did not have the time because she is never around. Don't give her that, Evan, you piece of crap. She is working her tail off for you, and you are doing nothing but hanging around these rich folks. What is your problem? Overcome with emotion, he rushes off to the Murphys, where he bonds with Larry and confides in him about his childhood. Larry offers him an old, unused baseball glove of Connor's. And then later, when Evan mentions Connor, Zoe tells him that she does not want their relationship to be about Connor, but about the two of them. Evan goes to the Murphys only to discover that they invited Heidi for dinner. Uh-oh. So Evan's mom is now with the Murphys and they're having dinner, and she is mortified to learn that they want to give Connor's college fund to Evan. To Evan? They want to give the college fund to this boy that they only met a few weeks ago, and not, to their only remaining kid who might actually need it. You're giving this college fund to a kid you never met, and instead of giving it to your own daughter. Okay, sure. Heidi and Evan fight over his secrecy and deception at home, with Evan confessing that he feels welcomed and accepted into the Murphy family because of Heidi's absence. Meanwhile, Elena begins to find inconsistencies in the fake emails, and Evan asks Jared to help fix the inaccuracies, but Jared refuses and threatens to expose Evan, who counters that he could expose Jared's role. Heidi, Elena, and Jared converge in Evan's conscience, compounding his guilt and doubt over his decisions. Evan decides he has to confess what he has done. An imaginary version of Connor attempts to talk him out of it, but Evan shouts that he needs the whole thing to be over. Connor tells him that if he tells the truth, all he has will be gone, and the only thing he will be left with is himself. He disappears, leaving Evan alone. Evan apologizes to Elena, but she has given up on Evan's help with the Connor project, and she starts to doubt the truth of his statements that he was Connor's best friend. Evan shows her the stolen letter to himself, claiming it was Connor's suicide note. Realizing that the letter is the key to fulfilling the fundraising goal, Elena, surprise, surprise, posts it online, where it goes viral. As a result, many people begin to believe Connor's suicide was because of his uncaring, wealthy parents. The Murphys have become the targets of hateful comments because people believe they were responsible for Connor's death. Like essentially, these people somehow even found the Murphys' address and are sending them pizzas and death threats. Evan walks in on the Murphys fighting about why Connor killed himself, and Evan admits his fabrication, explaining that he had been hopeful that he could forge a genuine bond with the Murphys out of the tragedy. As Zoe and her mother leave, Larry turns away from Evan in disgust. Alone once more, Evan absorbs his perceived brokenness as inescapable. So he indirectly caused the death of this family's son, pretended to be friends with said family's son, so he could get into a relationship with the daughter. And now that the suicide note has been posted online, everyone is sending death threats to the Murphys and making their life miserable. And to add the icing to the cake, Evan says, oh, by the way, none of this was real, it was all fake, sorry. And he doesn't suffer any consequences. Nothing happens. He suffers no consequences. Nothing is rectified. Am I the only one who sees a problem with this damn musical? So, the movie is supposed to be coming out again in a few months, and apparently they're going to try giving it a different ending where, Evan kind of faces the consequences a bit, which I sure hope so, because he deserves to face the consequences, because he's, just ruined this entire family. He's torn this family apart, and then just left. And I really hope that people are more aware of how horrible this musical is before they know what they're getting into. Because the music is great and pretty, and the actors are great, but the story and the message are really, really horrible. So please, for the love of all that is good and holy, be careful when you go to watch this musical in the theaters in September. That's all I have to say. I do not recommend this musical. 0 out of 10 into the bin of shame with you.